Employability is a key concept in higher education. The graduate employment rate is often used to assess the quality of university provision. Despite that, employability and employment are two different concepts. This session will increase the understanding of graduate employability through interpreting its meaning. Discussion panel by Dr. Laura Dowling, who has 25 years of corporate operations management experience and 15 years of experience in educational leadership. Dr. Ruth Fuente is a professor of leadership, entrepreneurship, project management, organizational behavioral and marketing research at different business schools. And Ed Samuel is a career life and executive coach, public speaker, author, certified career assessment and DISC team leader, and has a nonprofit stewardship ministry, and founder of Sam Nova Inc. Dr. Laura, the stage is yours.
Hi, today we're talking about student services and employability, or how university career service centers can add value to the student experience in job search and career management. Inside Higher Education, student rating of university career centers found 17% of the students found career centers very helpful, 26% found them helpful, 40% somewhat helpful, and 17% found them not helpful at all. Changes in societal norms and economic conditions have preceded each paradigm in university career services. The post-World War I era focused on vocational guidance for graduates. As a result of the GI Bill in the 1940s, career services provided job placement services in a manufacturing economy. A slow economy and a shift to a retail and service industry in the 1970s and 80s resulted in the career counseling and planning model, emphasizing a strong focus on preparing students for career decision-making and planning. The 1990s brought the dot-com boom, engaging employers on university campuses and creating a strong focus on employer relations. Emerging technologies and social media advanced a networking paradigm in the 2000s, bringing a new level of connectedness between students, faculty, alumni, and employers centers on professional networking. Today, in a social networked economy, an integrated model of customized connections and communities extends employability beyond the walls of university career centers to an ecosystem that fully engages the entire network of students, alumni, faculty, employers, families, seasoned career coach experts, and surrounding communities. Socioeconomic changes, technological advances, generational trends, and a global pandemic are the impetus behind the current mission of college career centers: to build meaningful partnerships, to develop equitable and diverse career communities of learners and networkers focused on helping students create and nurture purposeful careers through the entire career journey. This will require a critical transformation of college career services with increased funding, elevation of leadership to increase influence, new models and structures, and stronger partnerships. The time to change career centers at universities is now. University leadership must have the courage to understand the needs, be prepared to invest in services, and fully support career service technology experts and partners. Ed, any thoughts?
Yes, to all the above. As a career coach, I've worked with countless, hundreds of students coming out of college. And I could tell you the stats that you read earlier on in terms of career services having an impact on them. My statistics were less favorable than even yours in terms of the impact that they've had on them, helping them land that first job, or, and And so many of the people I talk to, they're still looking for a job 6 months out of college. And I always ask the question, well, where's career services been? How have you used the group? And, oh yeah, we met with them, it was a 30-minute discussion and I got some pointers, but that was the extent of it. And, part of the problem that and by the way, I have a lot of friends who are in career services and leaders in career services. So I don't want you to think that it's about the people that are leading some of these centers, because there's some incredibly talented people. The biggest challenge is just the sheer volume. See, as a career coach, when parents hire me to help their son or daughter land a job out of college, right? The parents are paying me to help them, but I'm giving them one-on-one counseling where they really need help. And part of the problem, Laura, is that they can't spend the time to a person's unique challenges, and they do the best they can, because if they try to do that with one, then they have a problem on their hands, because if they try to do it with the next one, they're out of time. Their day's completely consumed. And that's part of the model that's a bit broken. And then the question is really, how do you fix that? You have this mass model. How do you fix it to make it more specialized for those unique needs? And part of it for me is the training that needs to go on to those students, especially, as they become seniors in college. I'm just not sure it's as simple as, okay, you go through your classes and you're getting ready to enter the job market. You go to a short training at career services in terms of how to do your resume. I could see an entire class devoted, over a 4-week period just on the resume alone. That's how important it is. 4 weeks just on LinkedIn alone. That's how important it is. 4 weeks on interviewing. That's how. So what we do is we condense all that down to 30 minutes, and we think that's enough. So those are my initial thoughts.
Great, Ed. You're in the trenches, so your statistics would be much more valid than inside higher ed. Ruth, tell us on the international plane, what's happening?
Okay, in my experience in the different universities I've been teaching until to the last 2 years, I have identified that our students have a lot of questions, a lot of doubts of what they are going to do once they finish their bachelor, once they need to get into the job market. No, they don't really get to understand what the organizations are waiting for them to, or are expecting from these students to give to the organizations. So they are confused about, okay, I'm learning this, how I'm going to implement this in the organization, how I'm going to figure out which organization is the best for me, is the best, where I'm going to make this match between the teams in which I'm going to be part of and me, because I have values, I have my vision, and I try to let them understand that you need to figure out which organization can give that you are wanting to have in this moment. Probably you're not going to spend all your time in one single organization. You're going to change from different organizations. So you need to figure out right now what you want to learn, what you want to develop, what you want to give to the teams in which you're going to be part of. And in that way, try to make a little research about the organization that have that for you. That thing that you're expecting. You're not only the only one who is going to be interviewed, you also are going to interview the organization. You also need to get to know what they want from me, and if I want that, to give that for them. Okay, so I think they need more counseling about what the expectations are outside once you finish your career, the opportunities that you can have with the career you are studying, because you have a lot of opportunities. You're not going to find one unique job for that bachelor. You can find different job positions. So which things you want, which things you like the most, which capacities and which abilities you have, and you can explode them to be part of a work environment. No? So I think they have a lot of doubts, but they don't have access to someone to teach them or to give them the clues about how they can make the research, how they can put in contact with people that were in the same situation, because sometimes you only need to talk with someone that passed through the same problems that you already passed, some ex-students or something like that, that can give them some insights about what they can do and how they can do things. So I always try to make a match between the topic I'm teaching and their situation. In which situation you are, this topic I'm teaching you how you can implement it, how you can use it in real life, and according with your values, according with your needs, according with the things that you like, how you can try to figure out which organization can fit with you, that organization that will give you that thing that you're looking for. No, but why you study this. So you want to work with in that sense with these things that you love and you like, no? So I think here in the universities I've been working is missing someone or some department that give them this help for these students to clarify all their doubts. So they are in the last year of career, and they still wondering how I'm going to create my CV, how I can express all the things I know, because I have no experience, but I have all of this knowledge. So how to get into my first job. So they need a lot of help.
Yeah, so many important things you said there, Ruth. So, connecting the course to real life work experience is something that I do at the university level every class. Why are you learning this? And here's how it's connected to the real world of work. And then a couple very important things you mentioned there. And Ed and I do career assessments for folks, and Ed is the master here, so I'm going to defer to him after this. But you said some important things. You talked about personal fit to the organizational culture, and culture is really the summation of what the business does and its values. Our career assessment is unique in that it targets values. And then how do you help students understand the multiple organizational cultures and how they fit in, right? So university career services aren't going deep enough with this counseling relationship that we do with students. What is purposeful for you and how do you fit in? Ed, I know you're ready to jump in here.
Well, there's multiple ways to look at it. One is that making sure that they have the right fit before they go to the university or college. So they're pursuing a major in a career field that aligns best to them right from that point. And then, as you know, statistically, at least in the US, right, 28% of the students will change their majors in first year. Great opportunity for career services to jump in and do the kind of assessments we do to get them back on track. Our assessments tend to look at their DNA of their personality, which is a huge factor in terms of who people are. And just because the parents was a doctor, an IT person, a marketing person, an accounting person, doesn't mean that they're supposed to be all those things. I see that mistake made a lot. The tragedy is when someone is a senior and I get a phone call from a parent that says, "Hey, my son's going to graduate this year, or my daughter's going to graduate this year," and they just don't like what they're doing in school. Well, at that point, it's a tragedy because they've already invested 3+ years of their college. And then we end up doing an assessment to find out that they have no interest at all in doing this major in this field. And then the ultimate tragedy is when I get a phone call from a mom or dad, "Hey, 6 months, 8 months out of school, their son and daughter is not working." And I said, "Well, why?" And we do an assessment and find out that they have no interest at all in pursuing what they just got their degree in. So the whole area of an assessment is try to get it as early on as possible, to go deep. And that's why our assessment's 550 questions. It looks a deep dive in your personality in 6 different dimensions. Traditional DISC is 4, we go 6, we show sub dimensions as well. And then we take a look at likes. Then we take a look at people's skills at that age, and then values. And our whole goal is to integrate it all together to come up with the best choices So at least it's an eyes wide open. So Laura, the better we can do that, and I just wish the career services groups would have the types of assessments we have. But you know, again, we have a challenge because when we do an assessment, right, that's a 38-page report, and it takes somebody who's a trained and certified consultant to walk a student through that to explain the report. Many times career services will have, quote, the free assessment, 100 questions, and that's going to guide us. And it's no different than the other tools out there. What color is my parachute and all the other books that are out there. In the end, you have to sit down with somebody that has helped hundreds and hundreds of people to interpret that report for that particular student. And here are your choices. And I really don't care what you have an interest in. What I care as a consultant, as a coach, I'm going to tell you what you might most likely fit you and where I think you're going to find yourself getting yourself in trouble. Oh, and by the way, you might have interest more as a hobby, but not as a career journey. So you have to kind of segment this out, meet with somebody, spend the time with that student. And does that mean should the parents potentially, and then here's something, another interesting twist, maybe career services should hire organizations like ours and a team of 30 people that I have to come in and actually have the parents pay a little bit more as part of their tuition to sit down with someone to spend that quality time. And it may not be the person in career services that does it. So you talked about partnerships earlier on. Where are the partnerships with people like, you know, my team to be able to help career services with these issues so that when it comes to graduation, they're off and running with a passion to follow what they really want to follow. So that's one piece of it, Laura.
Very, very important. It's not a 1 hour visit with a counselor, right? Ed, I know you spend multiple hours. It's a journey. It's a process of discovery. So it's important, as you said, Ed, to get it as early as possible, right? So that we can
absolutely
begin that journey. You know, I'm studying the right things for where I potentially want to go. That brings us to, again, back to partnerships across enterprises and globally. It's important because there's opportunity in other countries, right? Spain, Jordan, India, because the world is flat now and universities do not have the exposure on a global perspective like some of us have here to help these students navigate these, which brings us to networking. Okay, Ed and I are very passionate about networking, and I, in all my classes, start the students, connect with me on LinkedIn, start networking now. Don't wait till you graduate 4 years from now or 3 years from now, because the job search space is very, very different, even post-COVID. And I know you're an expert in that area. You might want to jump in here. And then Ruth, I'd like to hear what your perspective is coming from Spain and Mexico. Is it the same or is it different?
Well, I couldn't make this comment 25 years from now, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. But I think gone are the days that the resume is enough. Hate to tell you that. The resume is no longer enough. What students have to have is a 1-2 punch. And everyone's looking for it, especially for a salaried position. LinkedIn has 750 million users, 174 million, it's 172 million just in the US alone. But you have to remember, 80% of any recruiter worth their salt, at least in the US, and I'll be curious what Ruth has to say in her space, they use LinkedIn to find people. It's not just people applying for jobs. So my point is that students have to understand that the resume is incredibly important. And I certainly like to elaborate on that a little bit later, Laura. But then LinkedIn is equally important. And there's a 1-2 punch. And because I've led recruiting teams, I've been a corporate recruiting leader in a multi-billion-dollar firm, I understand how important resumes are, but I also understand how LinkedIn is phenomenally important right now. So students have to be trained. It's no longer just a good resume, but it's also a great LinkedIn. And if you can have that 1-2 punch working, students have an advantage going into the marketplace. And that student who's only focused on the resume and not a strong LinkedIn profile that showcases how smart they are, how good they are, how integrated they are, how consistent they are, they have a disadvantage. And if you can get those two together, they're going to be in a much better place in terms of landing a position coming out of school. There's other factors involved, don't get me wrong, because it's almost, you got a great LinkedIn and a poor resume. That doesn't work either, right? I'm talking about a great LinkedIn and a great resume. The most recent study on LinkedIn, by the way, says that if your LinkedIn is so-so versus somebody you're competing with, a college student coming out of school, is great, that college student's LinkedIn will be looked at 8 times more by employers and recruiters than the one that was so-so. Forget about the one that's just an empty shell, right? So I'm here to say that career services has to think about, change their model into a 1-2 punch and get away from this notion that get the resume done and apply for jobs and that's enough. That's almost, that kind of thinking is actually dangerous right now in a career services organization, based on my experience of dealing with thousands of people, just dangerous. It's a 1-2 punch, Laura.
We are in a social networked economy, and that's how we're finding jobs today. Ruth.
For sure, we are in a network area in which to whom you are connected, that will give you a lot of opportunities, and not only connecting, making this relationship and working on that. Okay, in LinkedIn, yeah, we connect, but sometimes we only connect and that's it. But what happens next? Start a conversation, say hello, say thanks for accepting me. These little things will make the difference between the rest of the people that is only connecting. Also, if you send a resume by LinkedIn, you can send it, but in many cases, you are being first selected by the algorithm, by codes. If they detect that you have the keywords, you continue. If not, you're not continue. So sometimes your resume isn't seen by people, it's seen by machines, by codes. Okay, so you need to do something else to trespass this barrier that you have. You don't have a CV, a resume that is really fantastic and that can pass these codes. You need to do something else to attract the attention of the recruiters. No, you send the resume by LinkedIn. You contact with the people that is opening that position in LinkedIn. You connect with this person. Try to get in touch with this person to communicate. We need to communicate, even if we are not face to face. We all right now learn how to communicate with other people, even if we cannot be face to face. And nowadays, the diversity and these new ways of working, that you don't need to be in a certain place, you don't need to be even in the same country, in the same city. So we need to know how to connect by the network. Okay, so that's really important, and it's important not only for applying for jobs, but also for improving your skills. That also help you. If you are afraid of talking with people you don't know, this is a good way to challenge you, to try to train these abilities. You don't need to see the people. You start sending messages and someone is going to answer to you. So this will give you more confidence. Oh, I reached one answer. Okay, so I'm going to continue. So if you start doing this from the beginning of your career, of your bachelor, at the end you will be expert in contacting, and you will be expert in doing these connections that are going to give you value, not only a number in LinkedIn that you know 100, 200 people. No, how many of these people you really talk with? That's important.
Yes. So you're talking about creating relationships through the LinkedIn network and other LinkedIn networks, which is very, very important. Start out right away. You did talk about some other things that like beating the applicant tracking system, right? You know, that's training all in itself, a 2-hour session, level 1, level 2, and level 3, right? I mean, it's the way we get jobs today is just so different. And my experience, having one foot in higher ed for 15 years. And in this career space myself, I find resistance at the university level of wanting to partner with folks like myself and Ed. There's a little bit of resistance there. They're not comfortable with it yet. And it needs a real overhaul. Career services are underfunded at the universities. They don't have time. They have 20,000 students and they got 5 people on staff. They don't have the time to service. So this is what I'm talking about by innovating in this industry. Partner with folks like Ed, myself, and you, Ruth, to help folks navigate this very different career space, right? Create partnership and connections and communities like our one Optimize Your Career Power Hour for college students. Ed, I can see it coming now. Thursdays at 11.
You're right.
Right?
You're right. Yeah, that's a great, I'm making a note of that.
So this is a whole new world for career services in a whole new world of work. Ruth, you talked about that as well. The world is flat and opportunity is everywhere globally. And how do we share that information to students at the university level?
Yeah, I think we need to join more what is job, what is companies, what is organizations and university. By tradition, they are separated. We educate, we give knowledge, and that's our job. And organizations give jobs, give opportunities to put that in practice. But they need to work together. They need to make more emphasis in that university is the first step. You are going to continue learning. You never end learning. Okay, so we need to join both areas and work together to give the real opportunities to our students to develop all the skills that they need to develop.
That's beautiful, Ruth, because that's bridging the gap between higher education and corporate or industry, which we've known has been east is east, west is west, and never the two will meet. You know, we're starting to see some collaboration here because students are entering the workforce and the industry is complaining they don't have the skills we need. So again, this continual learning, career services at university doesn't stop after the student graduates and gets job one. It's managing through career. Ed, comments on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're talking about landing that first job, but a lot of times landing the first job may not be the best job because it's just a job. And sometimes the parents are so happy that their son or daughter just landed a job, right? But sometimes, you know, I speak about this. In fact, I speak about this on my radio program this coming Saturday in Philadelphia at 8 o'clock about how women, especially because this being International Women's Month and day and week, where when you land that first job, sometimes that first job can put a woman especially behind the hole right out of the gate. And then the question, how could that happen? Well, because they went after that first job. But if they networked well, if they do some of the things that, you know, I subscribe to as a career coach, thoughtfully as a senior, they're not jumping at any employer who walks into the room that gives a job offer. They're going to go target the best company for the best job at the higher salary. I promise you, the parents who have hired me to help their son or daughter as a senior ends up landing their first job at a higher salary than the person who just says yes to the first job offer. But then what happens is that if you say yes to the first job offer and forget about using someone like me, 6 months from now, a year later, they are laid off. They don't like what they want to do. They want to go to that next job. Then they really need help. Some of the universities that I know of, some of the larger ones, especially, they do have what they call alumni career coaches. They seem to do a better job of bringing people in to actually counsel people that way. But at that point, it's kind of after the fact, but still they do a better job there than in career services. But for some, that alumni services, I guess, are dotted line or connected to career services. And sometimes alumni leads that work independent of career services. So there's another group of resources that colleges try to throw at this problem after students graduate and go into the job market, or they're struggling. Well, here are some people that they try to line up. So I know that that's one aspect of what they try to do that, again, I'm not sure how well that's working necessarily, but, that's an additional thought, Laura and Ruth.
Again, that's another area where we need to have this integration. I serve on the board of directors of a nonprofit that educates career services at university folks. And they complain all the time where there's a lack of funding and there's a lack of collaboration internally. I mean, if you're a big university, you got thousands of people working at some top-notch, sharp organizations. Build this relationship where there's coaching and mentoring through career trajectory, right? Through the alumni services. So that's a great point. Ruth?
For sure, we need to create a kind of support, not only for the beginning, not only for the first job, but also for the next, and to give the feeling to our students that they can start in one place, in one organization, but that in that moment, if you even identify that doesn't fit with you, you can change. It's not a problem if you don't find in your first job the job of your life. Okay, you need to try, you need to test, you need to experiment, you need to start as soon as possible. I also recommend them to start doing some internships, to start getting into the organizational companies or whatever as soon as possible. You can find internships almost in any company nowadays. So as soon as you start, you're going to see the reality. You're going to figure out if that fits with you, if the thoughts that you have about the starting your career is in the way that reality is giving to you the opportunities. So you can try, you can test. So you don't need to worry a lot about I need to find my job in the first time. No, most of us didn't find our job of lives in the first one. We need to experiment. We need to try different things till we find this is my job. This is my place in life. No, so I recommend all the students to try as soon as possible. Different things, different companies, different environments, different cultures. In that way, you are going to be more open and you are going to figure out soon which are the best things or the best job for you.
That's two important things you said there, Ruth. I know, Ed, you've had 28, 29 different jobs. I haven't had that many, but it takes a while to figure out your flow zone, right? So career services and career coaches and executive coaches can help you find your flow zone, your purposeful career. Love that.
Yeah, and many times it's a journey, right? So
yes,
I talk about, I give talks about this whole topic of when to reassess your career. And I think I cover about 13 different times when something's going to come at you. And, and it could be at 25 years old, it could be 28 years old, but 13 different times in your career where something's going to come at you that you weren't counting on, you weren't expecting, and you're forced to change, or opportunities that will present themselves where they can reassess their career to change. So one's a little bit more defensive, the other one's offensive, and people will have choices throughout their careers, right? Until they get to that point where, you find this perfect match between who they are, their skills, what they love to do, their values, and then here's this amazing opportunity, and it all comes together. And sometimes we call that the dream job, right? Where everything's happening, and it's not necessarily just about the money. It could be a nonprofit role where you're caring for people, or it could be, a corporate executive. It could go in all directions, right? But Laura, I wanted to just make a comment. One of the mistakes that I see made, and it's not really talked about as much that I would like to see in career services. And this is just across the board. And I work with some amazing universities everywhere to really if the student's going to be an accounting major, make sure the sooner they can start doing internship work in the accounting field, the better they will be positioned as a senior to be grabbed by an employer. My statistics is very sad for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 of student resumes I've seen as seniors. I would tell you 70%, maybe it's a hair more, have not done internship in the very field they went to school for. To me, it's a tragedy, because what happens is that or if they do internship work, it's as a senior for 2 months during the summer, when people I'm coaching started as a freshman, sophomore, 2-3 months, 2-3 months as a junior, 2-3 months as a senior. And what they can put on their resume graduating from a university or college, it puts them in a position that just outweighs everything the other students have done. And in some cases, the other students are smarter, better, but because they didn't do the internship work, and again, some of this is just they're not being coached well. Because when I look at a senior's resume and I see they're an accounting, a marketing, and I look and I say, well, what work did you do during the summer? Well, I worked at, my uncle's coffee shop as a barista. What do I say to that? How do I turn that into a set of accomplishments to make a future employer know that they're committed to that industry, to that field of work? It's very challenging. So I'm thinking like, I'm writing my second book, as you know, but I'm thinking there might be another book that I need to write now that says, okay, here are the 20 things a college student should never do as a freshman if they want their career to be optimized leaving school, right? And one of them is, don't do do no internship work, or thinking that, just because you were and I'm not, please don't take this wrong, but you're the event chairperson of the sorority house, that somehow every year you being the event chairperson at the sorority house can replace doing internship in your field of study. And there are some people that actually believe that I talk to, and it's a non-starter. Sorry, non-starter. Nothing against sorority houses or anything like that, but that's a nice to do as a volunteer down below in the resume. It shouldn't be the premier work that you've done. So not that I don't feel strongly about this topic, Laura, but it's a mistake that I see made, at least in the US. I don't know about you, Ruth.
Well, from my own experience, I started since the 3rd semester of my career doing internships, but internships in my field. I studied psychology, so I made internships in clinic, I made internships in human resources, I make internships in working with autism children. So I do the internships, but about my field, to identify which area of psychology was better for me, for my abilities, for my capacities, and for the things I wanted to do in the future. So I always recommend that, do internships, but for sure about your field, about what you want to do, about the job you want to reach once you finish your career, not working by working, okay? It's the same, you are looking for a job, even if it's an internship, you are looking to some place in which you can use the knowledge that you are getting to put it into practice. So if you want to be an accountant and you go to be barista, something is not in the same way, no? The objective is not the same. So the message of doing internship as soon as possible, do internship, but but thinking which type of internship, in which company, what I'm going to reach from that internship, what I'm going to learn from this internship. Okay, because at the end, it's experience that then you can show to your future employer. But if it's not about the field that you want to work in, you cannot present it because it's not going to open you any door. Okay, so making an internship is interesting, it's important, but you need to think which type of internship, in which company, and with which objective you are doing that internship.
Yeah, beautiful. So we're talking about strategic, targeted approaches to career early in your university experience. So that's very important. So these early internships can help folks understand, is this my space? Is this where I want to be? Or I do not want to be an accountant, right? And we can help pivot them before they spend tens of thousands in the wrong degree, right, Ed? And also create and establish relationships in that discipline or in that space that could follow them as they graduate and leave, which brings us back to, again, this collaboration between higher ed and industry on internship opportunities and jobs. Again, so I know our Unirank system, is going to actually have that as a ranking component. How well does the university do with career services and employability? And folks will be able to use that tool. Parents, students will be able to use that tool to help navigate this very complex, rapidly changing job search career space. Any last thoughts or comments, Ed, Ruth?
Well, just one quick add-on. We have to remember a lot of companies, and I worked for one because I led the effort for several years, have formal internship programs where college students can actually join those programs as early as a freshman, sophomore, and actually stay with that employer through that activity right through the senior year. And those colleges have a tremendous placement rate at a very significant higher salary. So the big four accounting firms, I was privileged to go through their internship program in detail. And those students that are able to get into that kind of a program early on and stay with it, not jump, not leave, stay with it. Come graduation, guess who gets picked? And those salaries tend to be at the higher level. I happen to be with a medical device company, and we targeted schools that specialized in engineering, and we tried to bring those students in early. And those students that stayed with us had a huge advantage over anybody who didn't work with us in terms of placements right out of school. So, Laura, I would just argue that career services groups, finding more of those and putting students, matching students into those types of programs would be amazing. Now, I just wanted to make a comment, a couple more comments. One is, I do see 70% of a resume coming out of a college or university, we end up rewriting. There's still a huge gap between the career services group not understanding some of the most basic elements that need to be on a resume that's missing, that puts students in a disadvantage. We have to get away from this thought that having a one-page resume, here's the format, fill it out, you got it done, looks okay, we're done. We will spend 3-4 hours with a student who's a senior on their resume. 3 hours, let's just say 3 hours. We have to kind of improve that resume, and something as simple as accomplishments not being called out or quantified for the internship program work that they did is just a shame that career services can't pick up on something so fundamental. And certainly I'm an author of a book called Optimize Your Resume, Do's and Don'ts. I take the book, I've tried to get it into college bookstores. I said, I beg you. And if I had all the money in the world, I'd give them a book for the college students to read and just do chapter 6, I beg you, because the quality of the resume will just improve dramatically, right? And then one other final point that I wanted to make is that I have several clients, even right now, from some of the most well-named Ivy League schools in America, and who are unemployed, graduated, unemployed. And I asked them, I said, you're with some of the best universities in the world. They should have the most resources, the most everything. And what happened was, the stories I'm told, I can't even speak. If that was the level of effort and commitment to a person to help them land a job, there's way too much credence given into, well, we're the named school. You're from this named Ivy League school, therefore you'll just get a job because you came out of that school. That's not necessarily always true. And my last point is that any student who goes to graduate, and let's say they get a degree in philosophy, then they find out that there's not a lot of jobs in philosophy that can pay your rent in New York City, come out of school. And those students have to make a pivot to a different career, not because they don't love philosophy, it's because there's no jobs there. Career services is completely inadequate, including the coaches that I've seen, the alumni coaches, and helping those students make a pivot to get employed, not because they don't love philosophy, it's because there's nothing there, and they're now they have to make a pivot. They go to career services, they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, because a pivot is something way beyond what we're even talking about. We're talking about a straight line. How now make a pivot, and what kind of support do the students get? So those are just a couple of closing thoughts, Laura, and I'm very happy that you gave me an opportunity to give you a couple of my ideas today.
Agree. So again, you're focusing on this relationship as we navigate education and career long-term in multiple different perspectives. Ruth, any last thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. We need to put the focus not only in the how things have been done in the last years. Okay, things are changing, and there's no one line. There's no one way of reaching the objective. There are differences. We are facing a huge diversity. We are having in our own universities people from different countries with different objectives, with different thoughts, and with different needs, and we need to manage that from the universities and from the organizations, and we need to work together. We need to figure out how to help these people. Okay, you love philosophy, as Ed was saying, but you love it, but what you are going to do with that? Okay, you can study that for sure, and you can do it because it's your hobby, it's your passion, and you're free for doing this. But what do you want to do? How do you want to work to support your life, not to survive in this in our culture that needs money at the end of the month? Okay, so we need to really think of that. One thing is your passion, one thing is what you love, one thing is what you want to do when you have time for spending with, but the other thing is we need to make money. At the end, the reality is we have bills and we have to pay them. So we need to understand which way is going to be the better way for each of us. Okay, we can do things that we love, we can do things that we like, but we need to be realistic at the end. Okay, I can survive with this. Okay, I go for it and I don't stop till I reach it. If I cannot do this, there are different options. For example, okay, I love, I study psychology, as I told you, and then I figured out that I love to be in the academia, okay, to be part of this area. So I did a master. I don't need to study a huge bachelor again to start from zero. No, there are options. We have more options nowadays. We have courses, we have masters, we have different types of programs that can help us to see and to study our passions. Okay, we cannot survive with this. I do another career, another bachelor about another topic that help me pay the bills, and then once I have my bills paid, I enroll into these courses that help me with this hobby, with this passion that I have, and I don't need to get frustrated because I have the opportunity to learn and to study this and to do it because I want it, but I have the other areas of my life covered. No, so I think that's one thing, and the other one is that we need to join the academia and the organizations. We need to work together because the organizations have needs, and the academia can solve and can cover those needs. But if they don't talk, we are not connected, and we are not doing the things for the same goal that we want. No, that is, in one way, giving the knowledge to our students to get into the organizations, and the organizations to receive people well prepared to do the job that we have for them. No? So we need to join these big areas and to work together to figure out how we can help our students and the needs that they have nowadays, because things have changed, and the academia need to change a lot.
Yes. So to sum up, so we should say, Dr. Laura's going to predict this, huge transformation in career services on the university side, significant collaboration between industry and academia and seasoned career and executive coaches like Ed. And this is going to be tracked in Uniranks. So it will become the expectation of universities very soon. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Ruth. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you.